Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight for our Village of Alsip committee meeting. Today's April 29th, 2024. We'll call this meeting in order at 7:31 p.m. Can you call the roll, please?
Trustee Dalzell?
Here.
Trustee Juarez Mendoza is absent. Trustee McGawhorn? Here. Trustee Murphy?
Here.
Trustee Navas Barza is absent. Trustee Peretta is absent. Mayor Ryan?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So thank you for being here tonight. We've got some students in the audience, and just want to remind everybody today is a committee meeting, so we're not going to be voting on anything today. Basically, we're just talking about different topics that will be brought to a vote. There might be one or two items there we ask for a consensus just to see if the board wants to take any particular action before we take a formal vote on anything at a board meeting. So we have committee meetings and then we have board meetings. So next week we'll meet in a board setting. But certainly, thanks for joining us tonight to hear these discussions. First on the agenda tonight was under officers' reports. I'll start with mine. I want to let everybody know that today I drafted a letter of support for a federal grant known as a community project funding to further the village's need for technology. This is to support the license plate readers, the FUSIS surveillance camera systems, body cams, and possible solution to streamline, like introducing new software for like FOIA and just simple data collection yet too. So that went to our 6th District Congressman Sean Caston, and he's really been helpful to our community with these grants in the past. So, and also our Lieutenant Val Emick did a real nice job of drafting a grant packet for the Congressman's office. So hopefully we get some support on that. First on your agenda this evening, I had on here a discussion regarding the property owner and need to develop 4.5 acres at 4555 127th Street. Trustees, clerk, I had a packet for you here too. I gave you kind of like an overview in everybody's mailbox, and I'd like to skim through this just to, especially for everyone in the audience as well too. Back in 2022, the Village Planning and Zoning Commission gave a positive recommendation to the Village Board for a new quick trip fueling center. So if you can pick, if anybody's familiar with the property that's just west of the church at 127th and near Costner is the Lighthouse Church, and very nice organization, and there's been land sitting next to that that's been dormant probably since the 80s. There was a Speedway gas station there for a short period of time, and right now there's nothing there. Quick Trip Fueling Centers showed interest in developing that property, that 4.5 acres, into a fueling center, and the Plan Commission gave it a positive recommendation. This Village Board majority also affirmed that recommendation and granted a special use permit. Back in November of 21, before this went to the Plan Commission, we had signage out there announcing what the proposed property was, and we're going to go to the Plan Commission for, and the property owner, Mr. Persino, and Quick Trip Fueling Centers spoke with the church, and the church, the pastor actually came to my office and did not want to, because in other words, their question was they want to share the driveway and basically modify it to accommodate a full access drive. Right now, IDOT has only granted a right-hand in and a right-hand out at that particular location. Because they didn't have a full access at that property, no one will ever be able to make a left-hand turn in or a left-hand turn out. And the pastor didn't want to relinquish any of his property for that, or share the driveway to make that happen. So, and that's his prerogative to do. In April 22nd of '22, I sent a message to Mr. Persino, that owns the property, and said the Village of Alsip can certainly help facilitate a meeting between Quick Trip and the Lighthouse Church in our conference rooms. However, I says I don't want to interfere with negotiations because, obviously this is between a property owner and the church. I did meet with the pastor and reminded him of the benefit to the community of having new development take place on a difficult parcel of land, but, plus having an investor in jobs, share of those expenses, which helps everyone, keep everyone's taxes fair. In May of 2022, our village engineer shared with me that, and everything I shared with him, he says, it appears from the current Cook County tax assessment maps, and they indicate that the area where the church is located on is on unsubdivided real estate. So the easements that appear on what used to be known as Martin Oil subdivision, as well as the Village of Alsip Orchid re-subdivision, do not have any real bearing on this situation. So I guess what I'm trying to explain to everybody is that our engineer is saying that he's pretty sure that this is not what we want to hear, but the situation is what it is, and there's not much they can do about it, meaning that the way that the engineer read this plot of survey is that IDOT agreed to allow a full access driveway at the same location as the existing driveway at the west side of the church that used to be known as Martin Oil, and it's the engineer's opinion that IDOT is not going to allow a new adjacent driveway at that same location because there's no spacing between the drives on a high-volume traffic area, and two, the new roadway would be located within the left-hand 294 ramp. So if you can picture it over there, right where this property is, you're going to actually introduce, if there was an opportunity to introduce a street at that location, that street would actually intercept the turn lanes to put you on the 294. So in other words, there's a lot of activity there. When this was proposed back 20 years ago, there was actually a hotel that was going to go there. And what they're trying, I met with the Secretary of IDOT about a month or so ago. He said this is a real difficult conversation. He says because at the time the church wasn't there 20-some years ago. Back in 2000 the church wasn't there. So when you're looking at that driveway that could have been a street, it would have been easier to work with or actually introduce a full access street. Now, because this is going to be a gas station and you need at least the conveyance of an agreement between the property owner and the church is resistant, that's what they keep going back to, is you can't make somebody do something they don't want to do. So IDOT is allowing a right-hand turn in and a right-hand turn out, but they're not allowing the full access drive. So again, going back to what our engineer has here, and I highlighted this for the board, was the engineer says, I believe that IDOT's response is going to be that there is already, which I just said, there's already a full-service access drive in that location on a stipulated agreement, in other words, with the church. If the development proposed to IDOT back in 1998 showed this entire area as one development with a shared access point, which exists today, I think this parcel is only going to be allowed to be developed with a right in, right out, because there's too much going on at that one spot. And IDOT sent to me, they said that in reviewing the documents that you attached with talking to our land acquisition reviewer, the department's ultimate determination is that the previously agreed upon access along 127th Street would not be valid anymore since the previously proposed development will not be constructed. The agreement from past acquisition was based on a specific site development use that included multiple hotels, office, and undefined outlots. The concept included both the subject property and subsequently developed eastern property, which is now occupied by the church. Our late 1990s permit review reduced the request requested 4 access points to an agreed upon 3 access points. However, 2 of those access points have been installed on the eastern property, in other words, on the church property. Access points were specific to the previously agreed upon development, but do not apply to the current land layout, nor the updated Quick Trip development. Given the current site constraints and developed property to the east, meaning the church, reasonable access for this Quick Trip development would be a right-in and right-out only access located at the appropriate distance from the interchange, in other words, from the 294 ramp. In February of this year, I did get a letter from the property owner's attorney, and he said, IDOT has reviewed Quick Trip's site plan and traffic study through multiple rounds of review, but will not review further until evidence showing the right to traverse the lighthouse property is obtained. In order for Mr. Persino to consummate this transaction, a driveway easement must be obtained. Our attorney, I work with Joe Kankar, he's been involved in many of these conversations, has also reiterated that the church didn't want to be a part of this from the get-go, and the only action that will accomplish the development of the property is if the village possibly utilizes the court system to create a public street. Of course, that takes time and money. This would require an ordinance and village board approval. If you're inclined to see a development take place, this would probably be the only suggestion moving forward. So I know, board, I've talked about this over the last couple of years from time to time. I've never officially, or formally, I should say, asked the board for your position on this, but I'm willing to hear if you have any questions or concerns.
It seems like, to me, it'll be a headache no matter which way we go, and I'm kind of feeling like I don't want to get involved in a court process. I don't think that that's to our best interest.
Okay. I mean, like anything else in this world, there's cause and effect. And, obviously you're dealing with an institution, both institutions. We certainly respect Mr. Persino and his interest in developing something, and he's had this property since like the early 80s. He finally gets a buyer that wants to buy it and so forth. But at the same time, this is really out of the village's hands because it is a state highway. It's a state road. So whenever, and just so everybody understands, and especially the audience, whenever you have a development that takes place that wasn't necessarily there before, everything depends whose curb cuts they are. Because when they're on main streets, only the owner of that road can allow you to put in curb cuts where you want. Because when you see, let's just say you see a new Dunkin' Donut go up someplace, they don't get just to get to cut the curb wherever they want. The state, or let's say the county, whoever it is that owns that road, tells you where they can put those curb cuts and stuff. On side streets, we own those roads, so we can make those determinations. And the building department primarily handles that and stuff. But in a case like this, your hands are a little bit tied. They're a lot of it tied, let's put it that way, with where these curb cuts can go. So like I said, this particular property owner has spoke with IDOT. I've reached out to, and again, I met with the top person at IDOT just a month ago, the Secretary Osman, and he said this is a difficult case. He says these don't happen very often, but back 20 years ago when they put that new ramp in that came off at 294, the village allowed that property owner to vacate that property to accommodate the new ramp coming from Indiana off on 127th Street, and he was compensated for such. He actually had paperwork that was sanctioned in the court and everything else to get a full access drive at some point. But that, again, when you got to read, it's like you have to read this a few times over to really understand. It's not just because you didn't build a hotel, it's because at the time the church didn't exist. And that's what they're talking about, is you're adding more than what was there, And now that the church has the driveway and you didn't, you need cooperation. And if the church doesn't want to cooperate with this, if they wish to stand on their own principles, there's nothing more we can do except for, as our attorney said, if the board chooses to utilize the court system to create a public street at that location.
It would basically be a street to nowhere so that Quick Trip can have an in and an out on that property.
Yes.
So that's the street.
It would be a street between, that would facilitate the church and the property, whoever the neighbor is next door.
Right, so it'd be a street next to a street, essentially.
No, just one street, but facilitates.
If they won't put the two adjacent.
I say, or are they looking to put something like a frontage road that would go over to Costner?
There's no, trustee, there's no room for that, because there's a housing development to the east of it.
Right.
That wouldn't allow. That's,
It's condo's backyard.
Roundtree Estates, right. And there's actually a condo complex right there, it goes right up to the expressway. So you're essentially trying to get around, go down around the flea market to get at it.
Is Quick Trip aware right now that there could be light at the end of the tunnel for them to make this development if they want to flip the bill for a street?
They understand that,
They do.
yeah.
Yeah, but they can't get the street without the church agreeing. The church doesn't agree. So.
Could
we
they
would
do a
have-
street on the property that Mr. Persino owns now?
No.
No, because you cannot put a street adjacent to a driveway. If for any reason someone made a turn into that driveway, they'd have no way to get to the other side, to enter the street that they wanted to access. They won't put a street next to a drive. And again, depending on distance, and Roger, that's what we were told mostly too, is, you know what, Roger, do me a favor, because you've been on almost all these conversations, just in case you have anything for input on this yet too. What they were saying was, because of its proximity to the traffic signal for the ramp, you couldn't put it any closer. You have to be at that
You have
spot.
to be at that spot.
Right.
And if it was strictly
No.
right turn in and right turn out,
A street.
it might not be too bad. But you know that people are going to be making a left-hand turn out of there, crossing across
Right.
all lanes of traffic and into the storage lane for southbound 294.
Right. You literally would have people coming out of there trying to get westbound, let's say to get to, just go westbound. I don't care if you want to go to Cicero Avenue or if you want to get on the expressway to go to Wisconsin, or that's just even Indiana. Everything goes left
Yeah,
coming out of that
everybody's going to have to
property.
make
And
an
the
head
only way-
eastbound.
Yeah, the only way you can make it somewhat work is if you put in a private benefit traffic control light at that
But it's
location.
too close to the,
It's too close to everything else.
Yeah, and they wouldn't allow that either,
Right,
yeah.
right.
The only other option would be potentially if they would allow traffic to turn onto the exit ramp. That would allow access at that light.
And even that, yeah, you couldn't even do that because the exit ramp is right there to get to the entrance.
Right.
What's I'm saying, if some of the, because there are,
The exit ramp is going the wrong direction. East side of that.
no,
is-
it's going the right way.
No, you'd have nowhere to cross it, is
Right.
what the trustee's saying.
That's what I'm saying, they would have to allow an easement from, say, the back portion of the property.
on
to
the
be able
west
to
portion
turn
of their
on
property.
West
to
part of the port, yeah, the west side of the,
The exit ramp.
There's not room there for the vehicles that are exiting 294 now.
Yeah, and it's tight. And again, trustees and to the ladies and gentlemen watching this, because we do YouTube all of our meetings, the camera's faced on us, not you. You folks look fine. But, the reason this conversation has taken as long as it has is we were always hoping for a best outcome. Let's put it that way. And again, when I have a meeting with, I'm a member of Southborough Mayors and Managers Association, and about a month ago, I had a meeting with Secretary Osman and his whole team of attorneys and everything else for IDOT, and I reserved time to meet with them and everything. As I said, this development is not what was proposed 20 years ago. and because of the proximity to the traffic signals and all the other activity taking place, and because the church wasn't there at the time, more provisions really are not in place, and that's the position of IDOT at this time, which, again, is why I'm just now taking this to the board to ask if the board would consider, and that's why I'd actually like to ask, I need more board members here too, because I got at least one board member on vacation. I'm not sure about the other two right now, but this may need to wait another, at least maybe till next week or the week after, and for at least get a consensus and see if the board wishes to consider pursuing action for a public street at that location. And this will allow access to the church and a neighboring property. But again, I want to do it with more board members here. I'm not putting this on three board members. Certainly, we don't have these kind of discussions every day, but this is also something that you might want to digest a little bit, and we come back and talk a little more about it then too at the same time. Is there anything that the board wants me to articulate to either party, like especially, obviously in this case, it would be the property owner? All right.
If he can't come to a consensus with the church, then it would be my opinion that I wouldn't be in favor of moving forward with it.
All right. Thank you. All right, I'll share that with them this week. And again, I appreciate you hearing me out as far as trying. I mean, I must have 100 emails over 2.5, 3 years doing this. And again, I really believe it's a great development, and I think it's good for our community. Right now, just so everyone understands too, there's a major bill pending. It's going to be voted. It's what they call an omnibus bill that's going to be included in this year's budget by the state of Illinois. And the governor, if you saw it on TV, the governor is looking to eliminate grocery tax because he wants all families to do better and save money and all that kind of thing. And week before last, on the 17th, I was in Springfield with 300 mayors that were really upset about the fact that, you know, that particular omnibus bill, when they approve that budget, that bill's going to get approved at the same time. Municipalities like ours, and I can tell you right off the top of my head, we stand to lose almost $670,000 a year in operating monies. That's 1% of what's collected in grocery taxes. And Alsip residents don't necessarily generate that money, that 1%. There's about 3 communities around here that don't even have grocery stores. Those residents shop here. Everybody in Mount Greenwood doesn't go to the one Jewel. They shop here. Everybody in Oak Lawn doesn't go to Mariano's. They shop here. So it's like you got all these, and 15 to 25% of the people that work here are probably shopping here before they go home. These are good blue-collar stores that we have. 2 Aldi's, a Food for Less, and a Jewel. And they're great stores, and they stock well. I shop at Food for Less all the time. These are good stores. And it's like, you know, other nearby towns, you know, Orland Park stands to lose $2.5 million a year. Schaumburg, $3.5 million a year. The city of Chicago stands to lose $60 to $80 million a year. Completely unsustainable. And unfortunately, that mayor wasn't even in the room when I was with 200 mayors at a committee meeting last Wednesday in Springfield. Because if I were him, I'd be the first guy in the front row yelling like hell, you know. But there's a lot taking place right now, and all the mayors are you know, they're not happy about this. And there's really not even an ordinance or a bill that allows us to recoup that lost money, because you can't just arbitrarily just come up with something to recollect. So if nothing else, we're going to be looking for more maybe unconventional ways to pay bills, or maybe we'd simply put, which is always the right response in any household, we tighten our belt a little bit more. You know, we do that every year. We're a conservative board, and you guys, your department heads, you guys do a good job of managing your budgets that we approve. But things are getting tighter. Things are getting tougher. And, you know, we're doing what we can to meet the task. Something like this, a development like this, can certainly help us. But it's not easily attainable, and that's why I had to bring this to the board for discussion, because this is a hard one. Roger, you run our building department. Anything that you can add to that?
I think you hit it on the head.
Because you are involved in every single new business that comes through here.
I
so.
mean, other than, you know, if we want to look into possibly the bank, maybe a dispensary over there, I don't know how the board would feel with that. I know I've had some discussions with a few developers that were thinking about purchasing the bank.
Oh, you're talking about a different property, right? I'm talking about this one first on 127th Street.
127th, right now, it would be hard, but I mean, to offset that, the taxes for the food, the food taxes, that would be one avenue that we could look at. I could reach out to a few of the developers that it brought to me, but that would be one that I would think of. But I don't know the board's opinion on that.
So,
but that'd be the old U.S. Bank,
right,
on
so
120th and Pulaski.
right. So what Roger's talking about, the U.S. Bank on Pulaski at 120th Street was just sold at auction, and it went off at a great price. Now I saw the guy; he's obviously flipping this thing because he put a sign right back up
Sign's
again.
right back up there.
The original price was kind of high, and we had a big player that wanted to get that and felt it was too much money to spend. And there was a lot of provisions that went with this, but now somebody got this at a great rate and wants to flip it. But what Roger's suggesting, and he and I talked about this, is we don't have any, like, even Orland Park now has a cannabis distribution place now yet, too. Or is that Tinley Road? Huh? Is that the Hills?
Yes.
Okay, my bad. Orland Hills does. I just saw that off of LaGrange Road.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So that wasn't Orland, that was Orland Hills. But, no, we don't have anything like that, but like Roger said, our site selection for that, it has to be zoned industrial, there's a lot of provisions involved. Should the board want to consider maybe lifting some of those provisions, you know, and like using the business district, which we've seen everywhere you look for nearby communities that have cannabis distribution places. They're all on main
Right there in the
streets.
business district.
I mean, you know, back in the day, you would think anybody that wanted to buy, but it's legal now too. So, I mean, it's not like you got to drive deep into like an industrial park and stuff like that. They want to be out there, you know.
Crestwood's going to have High Five right on 136th and Cicero. You've got one that's on the corner of 111th and Ridgeland. You've got one, 95th and Ridgeland also.
You should see the size of one in New Buffalo, Michigan. Guy actually bought a hotel. You know, I mean, you got to be kidding me. It's the biggest thing I've ever seen. There's actually, even in Burbank, they just opened up a bakery next to it. It's called Wake and Bake and stuff yet, too, you know? So it's like, I mean, everybody's, you know, they're using the old noodle, you know, I mean, you know. Yeah. So, anyway, it's something to think about because we are trying to find unconventional revenues. But, Roger, yeah, I mean, you've been involved in almost every single conversation I've had with this, and I don't know of what other avenues
Very
we can
difficult
take
to
with
launch
this.
for the 127th. It's very hard.
All right. All right, well, before we take, for any consensus or anything, I'll wait till I get at least one or two more members in the room then, too. All right, thank you. That's all I have for my report this evening. We'll go on to the clerk's report. Clerk Harding?
Thank you, Mayor. I have the presentation of the April 15th, 2024 board meeting minutes, and that is all I had, Mayor.
Thank you. We don't need an attorney tonight. Engineer, Mike, I didn't get a report from our engineer. How's Cautionary Avenue going right now?
Cluster's going well. They put down the binder late last week. Weather permitting, they should have the surface asphalt down this week, before the end of the week.
Okay. And again, so everybody understands, Costner from 127th to 119th is a federal route. And when we get funding for stuff like that, there's only a couple of streets that qualify. So it's Costner from 127th to 119th, and 119th to, Costner to Pulaski on 119th. And on the west side of town is 122nd to Central, and then Central from 122nd to 115th, right, Mike?
Correct.
So
And then
just-
131st between
Oh,
Pulaski
right.
and Kedzie.
And 131st Street. So there's only like maybe 5 streets in the whole town that qualify for federal
Correct.
assistance as far as streets. So that's why we picked this. It was an 80-20 split too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why we picked those. Because sometimes I look on social media and I'm like, man, my street's not that great. I'm like, I get it, but we can't get money for those. This is designated just for that particular
Yes.
route. Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Public forum. Did anybody in the audience wish to address the board tonight? Sir, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to publicly thank the board on the record, for your consideration of the safety issues and Chapel Hill Estates traffic safety issues, the actions that you've already taken, and your consideration of additional actions to be taken. So thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks for letting us know. And we targeted probably a dozen areas, and Mike, our bumps are beat, so we need to get some more speed bumps and stuff in too. Okay. And primarily, we started off with just where we know we get some high traffic, especially with children. So we put them near like the Little League fields on Karloff Street, and then we did 119th Street. And I know I gave you a big list, but anywhere else that you felt that maybe I missed? Okay. Well, we touched many neighborhoods, let's put it that way. And if your neighborhood didn't get something like that, we don't like to promote a lot of that kind of stuff because really I was taught a long time ago, anytime you alter the street, even with a speed bump, you assume more liability. We're trying to avoid that. We don't want people tripping or falling or hitting it with their bike or at a bad angle, that kind of thing. So we don't like to overplay that. But, sir, when you come in with traffic concerns like you did last month, we want to address that and stuff yet too in the interest of public safety. So thanks for letting us know, though, too.
Sir, would you mind signing in on the clipboard?
Oh, yeah, we keep record of folks that spoke to us. Anybody else? Dan?
Good evening, everybody.
Sure.
A constituent of State Senator Cunningham in Chicago had a vehicle stolen from outside of their residence, located by police and towed in Alsip. A week later, this person received a letter in the mail from the towing company, Walsh. Going to recover the vehicle, the owner was told to pay $1,500 and not allowed to recover a hearing aid from the vehicle until the fee was paid. This is modern-day piracy. State Bill 2654 would require towing companies to send a written notice within 2 days of the towing to the owners. What happened to this person is a simple case of company greed at its worst. Can an ordinance in Alsip be passed regarding a code of ethics to the towing companies to send a written notice within 2 days of towing to the owner? It's enough that the owner survived by not being killed when the auto was stolen, not like the young police officer in Chicago who is being buried today, and to be ripped off again by unethical and unscrupulous towing companies, be they legitimate or fly-by-night outfits.
Thanks for reading it off, Dan, because I'm familiar with that case, and I was involved with that when that came about, and typically, and almost all the time, and Trustee Elzell was in law enforcement he still is, but typically your insurance company would handle that, when those kind of things happen. That didn't happen here. So, and I'm not here to judge the party that claimed that their car was stolen. I couldn't tell you if it was or not. I know it was found within blocks of where the person lived, and that we have a responsibility after, I forgot, Rick, how long do we have to leave a car in case somebody claimed it? Somebody might have just parked it. Let's say it broke down. Isn't there a leave time, too, for that?
As an abandoned vehicle, yes.
Yeah. So you have to leave the car for a few days. You can't immediately take it. Because in some cases, like if my car broke down today, I might park in front of your house for a couple of days while I'm trying to find a solution to it and stuff then, too. So I know it might have sat for a couple days before it was towed, and then the towing yard has it and stuff, but again, there's fees associated with that, and this person didn't utilize any insurance to get it back, so now they just want to go in the car and get their belongings, which means they're going to leave that car behind, and I think that's what the towing companies, they don't think they do it so much as to be a provisional, like a pirate type of thing, but I think they're just doing it to say, we want you to take your stuff, you're just taking what you want out of the car, and I don't think the person, I know I'm sure they're good people, I'm not judging them, I don't even know who the people are and stuff yet then, too, but I think there are laws that protect the towing company from stuff like that, and I know what you're saying, but that's Rick, what do you phrase that again? Is that a vehicle code by the state?
It's under the IVC, but typically, and we've had Walsh as one of the towing companies for a very long time. They're a very good company. They will normally, under business hours, allow people to go in there in order to get medicine or, like you said, the hearing aids. So it seems unconscionable that somebody would not allow that to happen.
Yeah.
You do have some companies that are not legit, and they're fly-by-nights because they listen in on police radios. They'll beat the legitimate towing companies getting there.
Oh, yeah.
And if the people are not wary, they'll hook them up, and God knows how much it'll be.
Well, that's why there's been so much talk in many communities, especially the city, where they want to, even here, you can't hear our police calls anymore. They're encoded, because that's exactly what's happened. Sometimes you run interference for the people trying to do the work. But as Trustee Dalzell said, I was actually, too, Dan, just so you know, I was involved in those calls when that particular party was trying to access their vehicle, and I contacted the towing company as well as Senator Cunningham, because he called me as well, too. Everybody was trying to help this person the best they could, but I have no standing in how the tow company operates their business. That's like anything else. It's like, I'm over here out in Imagine Village, and if I don't have an Illinois vehicle code to tell them differently, and certainly the senator didn't either, we're kind of at a loss in this, and so we're going based on what they're allowed to do.
If they were, I apologize, but if they were acting inappropriately, they are our recommended tow companies. So if they weren't, and if they were doing dastardly business dealings, then as a village, we'd take them off our approved vendor list.
Because at the April 13th meeting, it was a get-together, with the different constituents, and I usually try to go because State Representative Mary Gill is there, too. So
Sure.
he said he had talked to you about this.
Yep. No, Bill Cunningham and I worked on this together one afternoon, but again, neither of us, and again, he kind of outranks me being a senator, and neither of us had any standing to tell the tow company what to do. So, and we actually asked as a courtesy is where we were going to with that. So that's where, and Walsh said, no, I have her call, and I thought he tried to work something out with her. I didn't hear that he held her up. But yeah, Brian over there said, no, tell her to call, and that kind of thing yet too. But yeah, no, I saw that newspaper article, and I'm like, man, I know all about this, and we did our best to try and help her out. Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you, Your Honor.
No worries. Thanks, Dan. Anybody else? No? All right, we'll move on with our reports. I'll go to standing committee reports, finance and IT. Trustee McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mayor. I will have the usual list of payroll and accounts payable for approval next week. Also, we have a request for approval of a PTAB decision to agree to an adjustment for property located at 4152 West 123rd Street that translates from a fair market value of $2,405,564 being assessed at $601,341 to an agreed fair market value of $2,125,000 even, which would then be assessed at $531,250. The law firm of Odelson, Murphy, Frazier, and McGrath represented the Village of Alsip and District 218 schools in this matter and has agreed to this adjustment. So the next on the agenda is a request for a consensus that be approved because it needs to be presented to an administrative judge on May 1st.
So again, I know there was a lot of jargon. I put all that in. So, ladies and gentlemen, just so everybody understands, we have a company at 123rd just west of Pulaski, and their original fair market value on that company was $2.4 million, and they're paying $601,000 a year in taxes. They disputed that to the Board of Review, and the taxing bodies, in this case, being the village and High School District 218, intervened, and they agreed to reduce the value of that property from $2.4 to $2.1 million, and instead of the party paying $601,000 a year, they're going to pay $531,250 a year. So that's kind of what all that means. He challenges taxes. So, Board, I'd like to ask for a consensus to approve this PTAB agreement with a formal vote to be taken at our next meeting on May 6th, as this agreement, as the trustee said, needs to be presented this week to another firm. So can I get a consensus to approve this PTAB settlement?
Trustee Dalzell?
Yes.
Trustee Juarez Mendoza is absent. Trustee McLaughlin?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Navas-Sparza is absent. Trustee Peretta is absent. Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
You have your consensus.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to our Fire Committee report. Trustee Murphy?
No report tonight, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Police and Traffic Safety, Trustee Dalzell?
No report this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
I want to thank, for the record anyway, I want to thank our police department today for participating in Chicago Police Officer Luis Waka's funeral today. We had 4 officers in attendance, and again, I hope he his rest in peace and his family as well. Very difficult day for the Chicago Police Department today, and police departments across the country. When you this is the second time we're all familiar with the story, but it's amazing how Officer Lasso was a friend of Officer Waka's, and it's amazing. And both guys lost their lives within 3 blocks of each other and stuff yet too, a year apart. So our hearts go out to them and their families, certainly. Next, Public Work and Boat Launch Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a request for approval to hire 6 temporary full-time employees in Public Works Department for summer labor at $15 an hour for 14 weeks. And next, I have the village has identified the streets needing to be resurfaced for fiscal year 25 as follows. 115th Place from Joalis to Colon, 144th Court from 115th Street to 115th Place. There's a typo there. 118th Street from Costner to Colon, Colon Avenue, 118th Place from 118th Street to Tripp, Tripp Avenue from 119th Street to 118th Place, Fay Lane Cul-de-sac to Colon Avenue, Joe Bev Cul-de-sac to 118th Place, Keeler Avenue from 119th Place to 120th Street, and 120th Street from Keeler to Pulaski Road. And that's all I have, sir.
Those are great streets you guys identified too, Mike. I ride the streets a couple times a week looking at them, and that's perfect. That's a great list. When do you think we're going to start doing those?
We still have to advertise the bid, so a few months out.
Okay. Okay. Sewer and Water Report Committee?
Trustee Murphy?
Trustee Murphy?
Oh, okay. Request by the Alsip Park District to approve supplying water to a drinking fountain at the Alsip Skate Park. Current practice is to supply water to all drinking fountains owned by the Park District at no charge.
So, I'm sorry, let me just jump in real quick. Trustees, the only reason I put this on is unless the board had any question or dispute to the request. That's the only reason I put that on. Otherwise, we'll follow past practice.
How many public drinking fountains do we have?
Dan, how many?
5.
5? Okay.
And Dan, do you have an estimate of what this will cost?
So we don't have meters on any of the drinking fountains, so it's hard to guess what how often they're utilized, but they are only on during spring and summer and fall, so they're turned off throughout the winter. So, I mean, we
But
can try to
then
get...
the cost to install.
Oh, Park District is installing their own. It's the reason because it's a new connection, we just wanted to make sure we didn't want to install a meter on it if all the other current drinking fountains don't have meters with them.
Okay.
And all these fountains, too, are on a button. These aren't like our old Chicago fountains where they're running day and night and stuff. These things are on a button, so you got to turn them on to use them.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so all we're going to say, and I know when I first read this, I was thinking we were going to install the water fountain for them. But
Oh, we're just
if it's
supplying
just
the water.
supplying the water, then
Yeah.
okay.
The question being is the added cost of putting in a meter vault and a meter connection and the fountain. So they're asking us if they can save the money of not putting in the meter vault.
And we do, Dan did explain to me, too, we do meter the spray park that's over on Laramie Street, the splash pad I meant, right?
Correct.
Okay. So we do bill for that. That's a different entity and stuff. There's a lot more water getting used there and stuff, too.
Correct.
Okay, next I have the request for approval to hire 4 temporary full-time water employees for the water department for summer labor at $15 an hour for 14 weeks. Next I have a discussion regarding the approval of the fiscal year 25 water rate ordinance. Dan?
So the city of Chicago has issued their rate increase for fiscal 25 based on the CPI for fiscal 20 or calendar year 23, which increased 3.37%. So our costs from the city of Chicago are going up 3.37%. I'm proposing with this rate ordinance that we pass along that same 3.37% to our customers, with the exception of Palos and Crestwood, which under contract, their rates are set by the contract slightly differently, and their increase would be 3.21%.
So we're not profiting off this water supply, we're just meeting the increase that we got from the city of Chicago.
Correct.
Right. Because you're not supposed to the rule, too, is, I've always been taught, is you're not supposed to profit from a natural resource at the same time. But, you could put money on there if you had to for infrastructure and all that, but we're not doing any of that and stuff. We work off what we do. So, Dan, your ask again is going to be increasing water supply rate by 3.7%? 3.7%?
3.37.
Oh, I'm sorry, 3.37.
Yep.
Okay.
Our costs are that. When we pass along the water, I mean, there's aging to our infrastructure, and
And that's,
Right.
So this is not just so city, let's just say the 3.37% for city of Chicago, our costs goes up, I believe it's 40 cents.
Right.
And so it's not, I'm sorry, I've got to look at it a little bit closer, but whatever our costs are, it's 3.37% plus our operating costs as
Right.
well. And so that 3.37% includes that. So we're adding.
yeah, we were behind the ball on that a long time before, and Dan came up with a methodology to sit there and make sure that we were charging a proper amount so we could maintain our facilities.
Oh, no, understood. I was just saying in this case, we're just meeting the request, but we've got our operating costs built in at the same
Correct.
time. Right.
So it is an increase that covers the increase from Chicago and all our increase in operating costs as well.
Okay.
But at that same 3.37%.
And you're saying ballpark down, it's about 40 cents per thousand gallons?
For, the regular customers are going to see a 30-cent increase per 1,000 gallons.
For minimum use?
That's more.
No, that's per 1,000 gallons.
That's,
The
I'm sorry.
minimum, for a minimum charge, that increase goes up about, what's that, 63 cents, 65 cents, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, Dan, when we bring this to a vote next week, if you can just give me a quick breakdown for that, that's all.
Yep,
Just
that's all in.
an example.
So that should be an attached.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's in my
There's all-
packet here.
that's all
Okay,
in there.
no
Yep.
problem. Okay. No, sounds good. Questions for Commissioner Traven?
I'm not sure if Dan can even answer this, but Mayor, have you gotten any, not to put you on the spot, have you gotten any updates as to our water investment from the Southland?
Oh, from Robbins supplying
Yeah.
water?
No,
Indiana.
Camp from
Yeah,
Indiana.
I just saw Jay Winsma last week when I was in Springfield, and myself and a couple other communities were hammering for more. We've said this from day one. We need at least a quarterly I'll have a report for you next week.
Great.
That's with the Southland Water Agency.
Because when that came to us, they estimated that would be 7 years. Recall?
Yeah, I'll get a report from Jay Winsma by next week. I'm going to ask for one. Let's put it that way.
Right?
It'll be interesting to see if that has been extended or shortened.
Yeah. Dan, can you give us the status on the Robbins Water too?
So they are currently still drawing water from us. They're waiting for a new clearance from CSX Railroad. They were given a permit to do some work, but we had identified some plans for the water main that was installed for Robbins in 1981, and we passed all those plans along to Cook County and the contractor doing the work. They identified an old 12-inch water main that used to supply them that may not have been disconnected properly, and again, probably because the railroad wouldn't let them work close enough to the tracks. So that may be the issue that they need to identify, and so now they're trying to get those permissions to work closer to the railroad crossing gate, because that may be affected.
Right, and despite what you read in the paper and everything else, we were given, Dan and I met with a Zoom meeting with the whole team from Cook County's Office of Asset Management, and we're told we can directly invoice the county for everything, for all the water usage going to Robbins right now. So there's no need for an intergovernmental agreement or billing to Robbins or anything like that. The county said they're taking responsibility for all expenses. Okay. Any other questions?
That's all I have, sir.
Okay. Me. Thank you. Just making a note. Next, we'll go to Building and Health Report Committee. Who's that?
Trustee Dalzell or McGlawhorn.
I can take it. Request for approval of the Village Sportsman's Club in cooperation with the American Knights Motorcycle Club of Illinois to hold a fundraiser on June 8th of 2024 between the hours of 3 p.m. and 10 p.m. The proceeds will be donated to the Chicago Police Department's Memorial Foundation. And then next, request for approval to hire 3 temporary full-time employees in the building department for summer labor at a rate of $15 an hour for 14 weeks. And that's all I have.
Okay. And again, to the students in the room, if you folks or if you know anybody, we do hire folks as 16 years of age and up for summer jobs. We take on close to 18, 20 people every year, so apply for the job if you need a job. Next.
And Roger, what are these 3 employees going to be working on?
Everybody in the building department would be doing the scanning.
Okay.
2 on the small scanner and 1 on the large scanner.
So you get inside work, not just outside work.
Correct.
Right. Okay, thank you. Human Resource and Insurance, Trustee Murphy.
No report tonight, Mayor.
Okay. Trustee, we did onboard 3 new employees last week. Sorry, I should have told HR. He and I were working on a project today, but we did onboard our new staff accountant started last Monday. Kelsey Fitzpatrick, very very nice person, and I was told Friday by the finance director she's catching on very quickly. Everything's going real well with her. And then we have a new part-time fire prevention clerk that just started at the firehouse. Her name's Anna, and forgive me, I can't recall her last name. Raj, did you catch that? You weren't here. That's why I'm picking on you and stuff yet too, you know. And then we did get a new firefighter too. Again, I apologize for the last name, but I swore Alex in here last Friday in the boardroom, and we wish them all well. You know, everybody's doing real well. Next, we'll go to special committee reports, Economic Development Committee.
Trustee Murphy.
No report tonight, Mayor.
Okay. Village Properties, Trustee McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mayor. First, we have discussion regarding the contract renewal for the village-owned property management at the Heritage Apartment complexes as the current property management firm's 3-year contract expires September 30th of 2024. I do want to mention on that topic, though, that we do have 2 one-year renewals already built into the original contract. We just wanted to bring it up at this point in time in case anybody has any potential objections to renewing for an extra year at this time.
What is the current occupancy percentage?
Can you
Like
speak to that, Raj?
99.
So the
I
village...
just wanted that on camera. I actually knew.
The Village of Alsip, the Village of Alsip owns 255 and older communities, where there's almost 30 buildings, 512 apartments, right?
That is correct.
So, go ahead,
We are
Rich.
currently 99% occupied. We have 2 vacants at Heritage 1 and 1 vacant over at Heritage 2. So 3 total vacants. We're doing pretty good. I have to say HRE has stepped up and has done a great job for the village
Do you
and for
recall-
the seniors.
Do you recall the occupancy rate before they stepped up?
Off the top of my head, I would say when they first took over, there was like 18 to 24 vacants between both properties.
Great.
And before that, 2000 was the only time since I've been there that we were, or I'm sorry, 2019, August of 2019 was the only time that we were fully occupied.
So the reason, trustees, the reason I put this on the agenda, and I explained to Trustee McLaughlin, was we have a big window before their contract expires at the end of September, and if for any reason any members wanted to go out to market and look for another management firm, we'd have to know soon so that we can develop paperwork and everything else. If it's the board's wish to, like as Trustee McLaurin just said, just take advantage of our. I apologize, Trustee. I don't have the contract in front of me. How many years can we renew that?
It's 2 1-years.
We have 2 1-year. We have a 2.
So 2 options of 1-year extension.
We can extend for 2 years based on the current contract, or offer them a new contract at 3 years if we're happy with their performance right now.
It would be my recommendation that we offer them a new 3-year contract with the same stipulation of 1 year and 1 year.
That's a huge contract. And just sit there and just offer it without looking for competitive.
Right, I think if we're going to do a whole new contract, we have to consider going out to bid again. But since we already have the caveats to extend, built into this contract to go another year automatically, I think the best move is to do that.
It is a professional service, though.
Even better reason to go out for con. It's a huge money.
I understand.
Right. And I'm sorry, I think that they've done a good job, but how many times have we asked for a quarterly report or presentation?
Oh, you've been getting these, right?
Well, I said we've been getting the monthly reports in relation to attendance or projects and where they stand in terms of
It's
occupancy.
currently being done on a monthly basis.
I mean, we have the ability to extend the contract should we desire. It's a large money contract, and for us not to seek qualified bidders, I think we'd be doing a disservice to the community.
So, Trustee McLaurin, as I said, that's why I put it on the agenda. I want to give us a big enough window. If we do go out to market, we have to know soon.
We have to know soon.
I would ask you then, maybe even like at next week's meeting,
We'll
I'll
ask
talk
for
with
a
you.
consensus.
And we can even we can get a consensus next week on whether or not we want to renew, or seek new contracts and stuff yet too.
Okay,
Seek new bidders, qualify new bidders. All right,
that's agreeable.
okay. Anything else?
Yes, I do have more here. We have a request for approval to hire 2 temporary full-time employees for the Heritage 1 summer labor at $15 an hour for a total of 14 weeks. Then we also have the same request to hire 2 temporary employees for Heritage 2, and a third request to hire 2 full-time temporary employees for Village Hall, all for 14 weeks at $15 an hour. Now, Roger, specifically, what are the 2 temporary employees at Heritage 1 and Heritage 2 going to be working on?
They will be doing, they'll be helping the guys out. They will also be doing some of the outside work where they're painting some of the inside fire hydrants. They'll be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. They will be painting and staining the gazebos, basically a lot of the work on the exteriors. And then when it's inclement weather, they will be working with my team, or HRE's team, with the interior remodels.
And who will be responsible for supervision of these employees?
HRE.
Okay.
The only reason why I requested it is because we haven't finalized the budget, and it's why I was looking for it.
Very good. Anything else, trustee?
No, that's all I have under village
Okay.
properties this evening.
Ordinance legislation committee,
Trustee Delso.
No report this evening, Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you.
planning and zoning and licenses committee.
And that would be presentation of a list of licenses dated April 8th, 2024 through April 26th of 2024. And then also for informational purposes, there will be a planning and zoning hearing held on May 8th for the property located at 5059 West 111th Street, which is looking for a variance to have 2 businesses in 1 building. And then there will be a second hearing on that same night for property located at 11236 South Lawler, looking to subdivide one 100-foot by 202-foot lot into 2 50 by 202-foot lots. And that's all I have under planning and zoning this evening.
Roger, I just want to split a vacant lot, put 2 houses on there?
Correct.
Okay.
And I have dealt with the builder. He's done 4 previous.
Oh, okay. Oh, is Wes?
Powell.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Did anybody have any presentations, petitions, or communications they wanted to share?
Mayor, I have one. I'll be bringing up at a future meeting. A couple months ago, we had Ross Polis in here, the owner of Deuces, requesting a backyard,
Doing a beer garden.
a beer garden outside dining. He did receive a positive recommendation from Planning and Zoning, and we should bring this up to give him a positive response or a negative one to kind of put this one to bed. I know that there is a lot of there are other businesses in the area that were looking to do the similar build. So we might want to address that and bring that up at a future meeting.
Okay. I did want to share a couple quick things here, too. My office, my assistant Becky, has been getting a lot of calls, and again, this is probably a question I might have to wait for until I get more board members available, but we get a lot of calls about video gaming, and we haven't allowed video gaming cafes. I apologize. Roger, I'm sure you guys get a lot of those calls, too, and we've denied every single call for probably when's the last one I went up? Katie's? Was it Katie's or Laura's? Something like that?
Katie's, I believe.
Katie's, and that was COVID. That was a couple years ago. So for the last couple of years, we've denied every single phone call that comes in. And I'd like to again, I'll bring it up at next week's meeting. We'll see if we get some more. I don't want to just put this on three board members, but just to see if you're willing to allow any additional, we don't have any moratorium on this or anything like that, but if the board is willing to consider any additional gaming cafes. We do have a reputable business in town that wants to set up a secondary business, and that's who this recent request came from, but we get requests all the time. So I won't ask for any of that tonight. Any questions or any comments on that, though? I'm willing to hear that all the time, yet, too.
I mean, I'll just say, for the record, I said I'm not in favor of adding any gaming cafes that are strictly there for the sake of a gaming cafe. If it's a supplement, I mean, if gaming is a supplemental enhancement to the business, that's a separate issue. But a gaming cafe for the sake of a gaming cafe, I feel we have enough.
I somewhat agree with you, and again, I don't want to always play devil's advocate, but again, like I was saying earlier, quite possibly this month, we stand to lose $670,000 in revenues that we use that come through as a pass-through from the state, and I think we really have to think about unconventional revenues. I mean, I'm sorry where they come from. You're not creating more gamers, you're just redistributing what you have, that kind of thing.
Well, and that's my opinion on it. We're not gaining any revenue by adding any more gaming cafes.
There's that
Just
possibility.
spreading it out.
Yeah, and we're blessed too to not have very many empty storefronts too. We probably got 2 in the whole town right now, which we're blessed. I mean, a lot of towns can't say that, but that's all. I'm just saying there's a side to everything, and I sit there, and I've been completely indulged in the finance department, and again, I just did a recap of our fiscal year '24 budget. We did pretty well. We met our goal. We met our budget and stuff yet too. So, what else do I have in there? Oh, a couple quick notes, and is
Ooh, but that does remind me, Mayor. If we have any line items that went over,
no.
okay,
I mean, we did, but others were better.
they're covered by the appropriation?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. So, please keep in mind, May 10th, 11th, and 12th, from 8 in the morning until 5 at night, Village is going to have a village-wide garage sale, so anybody can have a garage sale at their house, and they do not need a permit to do so on May 10th, 11th, and 12th. The village is going to have a flower sale on May 10th and 11th here at the Village Hall. May 11th, we're always looking for volunteers for the village-wide cleanup day. I joke with you guys all the time, but I'm serious. I do the Cicero Avenue Bridge every year, because I live right over there, and I tell you, some special person always seems to throw out a dirty diaper. There's always a trophy laying out there and stuff yet too. And then, but Trustee Murphy, what do we always bring up all the time? The first time when I got elected back in '17, I went out. I was right here on Cicero Avenue with, I think, the sprinkler fitters. Walked over there in our high vis, looked down, pick up garbage. First thing I found was a $20 bill. Still got that in my car with mud all over it and everything yet too. My dad says money does not fall up. And then Monday, May 27th, please join us at noon at the VFW Post 450. We're going to commemorate Memorial Day that day at the VFW. So if you're available, please join us. Did anybody have any unfinished business they want to discuss? Any new business? We need to adjourn to just a short closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2, Chapter 1. Again, we're going to adjourn to a closed session. Can I get a motion and a second to do that?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Can you call the roll, please?
Roll call number 2 to adjourn to closed session. Trustee Dalzell?
Yes.
Trustee Juarez Mendoza is absent. Trustee McLaughlin?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Navas-Barza is absent. Trustee Peretta is absent. Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Motion carries to adjourn to closed session.
Thank you very much. We're going to adjourn to closed session. The time now is 8:41 p.m. Students, if you need a signature on your agendas, come on up. We'll sign it off for you real quick. And Dan, do you have 5 minutes? Can you just hang around for a meeting? Thank you.